Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, February 17th, and we're back. We're back. It's so nice to be back. I got to make sure that I'm not too close to the mic and screaming in your all's ear. I'm Nick Valencia. I'm the host of Nick Valencia Live, and this is our first show in 3 weeks. It's sort of crazy because we had started this new schedule. We had gone from 3 o'clock Eastern to 1 p.m., and then just as we're getting into a rhythm, things got really busy for us. And without, wanting to recap the last 3 weeks, I guess we should start with one of the big highlights, which was going to Washington, D.C. and talking about press freedom. And, even though it was one of the biggest days of my life, it was just a normal Monday morning, Monday afternoon for the lawmakers and really everybody else in Washington. But we got to do something pretty exceptional for me, in my life. I got to walk these hallways that I never really imagined that I'd ever walk, National Press Club, and then giving opening remarks on Monday for a discussion ahead of a Senate Commerce hearing on broadcast media ownership. And our part, we went up with a group to lobby for press freedom and to talk about what we had been through, assaulted by federal agents, and also just sort of the overall conglomerization. That's a big fancy word for saying that not a lot of people own these media companies out there. And because of that, there's a danger to the kinds of information that you're going to get. And I think the biggest danger in all of this is that if more national kind of owners own local newsrooms, then you get more national news. And we all know, I think viewers know, that the best news is local. It's hyper local, right? It's something that you feel like you could do something about. You can go to your city council meeting. You can, go even to your local representative and make an impact. And as things become more and more national, more and more of a conglomerization, you're going to get less news that's impacting you. You hear that phrase, not in my backyard. Well, if you start pushing stuff out of your backyard and not paying attention, pretty soon they say you're going to have something in your front yard that you don't want. So that's the fear for, part of the group that I went up with. But what we were talking about was really just kind of how it's this us versus them mentality right now in the United States, it feels like, especially under this Trump administration 2.0 out there on the streets. It's not just journalists like me, but I know if you guys are watching the show, you probably know what I went through. And despite us being identifying ourselves repeatedly as press, we were targeted, deliberately assaulted. And so we went up to talk about that and made sure that the lawmakers knew what was going on the ground. One of the other parts of our trip, though, was something really cool, is that for the first time in my life, and not the first time in Eric's life, he was with me, Eric Sandoval, my EP, we went to Capitol Hill and walked the halls of Congress. And I went into the office of Representative Joaquin Castro, which was just amazing, man. We got to sit down with him, and I say amazing, but I should couch that because they had just gone through something really, really traumatic. They had just gone through the Dilley Detention Center, which is where 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos had been held. And that was the little boy who was taken to Minneapolis with the blue hat and the Spider-Man backpack. And he became sort of, it galvanized a lot of people who didn't realize it was as bad as it was. And Representative Castro and his staff walked through the Dilley Detention Center, and they saw a lot of things that they didn't want to see, including what they described at the time to us was a 2-month-old. Juan Nicolas, I believe we've learned his name is, and what you're looking at here is aerial footage from the Associated Press. This is not AI. This is real here. These are real people outside from the Dilley Detention Center, men, women, children. These are people, as we've learned as well from DHS's own statistics, the majority of whom are not violent criminals, many of whom don't have anything, not even a record in their home country, no DUI, not even a jaywalking ticket. And among those people who are being held there include a 2-month-old, Juan Nicolas. And we learned earlier this morning that that 2-month-old was rushed to the hospital for unknown reasons. There is a reporter there in Texas, Lydia Terrazas. I really encourage you guys to go watch what she's doing, her coverage. She's been covering it from, this story, I'd like to say since the beginning. But, we wanted to, with all that said, we wanted to talk about private prisons. And we wanted to talk about, sort of the infrastructure that's being built, the infrastructure that's being built all across the country. We've seen this federal government scout warehouses. We've seen them go look towards old Walmarts, places where they can house a lot of people. And that's something that I saw in the first administration. I saw this expansion of the private infrastructure, these temporary sort of, in some cases, infrastructures, where people went and were housed, pretrial detainees. The private prison infrastructure is so important, and it plays such a crucial role in this immigration system, and one that we really don't pay enough attention to. It's these same private prisons that are, Eric, 1 second, man. These private prisons are the same ones that, these owners are the same ones that are getting rich right now, hand over fist. They are the ones that are benefiting from these detainees, some of whom are just a price tag to these private contractors. $27,000 to $35,000 per month is an estimate that's put out there, and that's about $900 to $1,100 per day. Okay, sorry, I needed to finish that thought. Eric, what did you say? Yeah, how we even got to this point. Why do they even exist? It's not a Trump thing. Back in 1987 is when this was, adopted. This infrastructure became to exist, and it was expanded upon and really fast tracked through the Trump administration. After people are detained, they need to be held before they are presented in front of an immigration court judge, before they have their habeas corpus petition. I'm not a lawyer, but I've learned a little bit. And during this intermediate time, when they're not allowed to be in a Border Patrol station because of a Flores settlement, they are housed in a lot of cases, sometimes fast tracked to these facilities, in these private prisons, places like California City, places like Alligator Alcatraz, places like the Dilley Detention Center. And on an average year, these private prisons have about 40,000 people in them. They're now upwards of about 60,000. Some would say 75,000 people under the Trump administration 2.0. President Trump, wants to expand this infrastructure to be as many as 150,000 people held in custody. And so when you add up all those numbers and all that price tag, think about how much money those private prison owners, those company owners are making. Places like CoreCivic, places like Geo Group, places like LaSalle Management. We have a very big report coming out here in a partnership that we should take the time to talk about. We are partnering and have signed a deal, which I think I've mentioned previously, but it's a lot more official now, with Theorem Media, which is the media company of Adam Bronfman, who is the heir of the Seagram's gin family. And we have contracted with them to do 3 reports over the course of the next 3 months on corruption. And our first big report will be an hour-long podcast and a 30-minute special on private prisons. We have done the work, all of the the shows in post-production, and that will be coming out in the coming weeks. So super excited about sharing that with you guys. We wanted to talk all about that with Josie Duffy Rice, and I'm vamping right now at this point because I don't think we have Josie with us. Do we? Not yet. Eric? Do I even have Eric with me? I don't think so. I'm all here by myself, guys. I'm just hanging out here in the wind. All right, let me try texting Josie right now and see if we can get her on the line. In the meantime, this the next couple of weeks are going to be pretty busy here. Let me text Josie while I wait and just more people gather in the room. You guys can hang out here while we get her on, because she's an important conversation. And our next guest doesn't come on until 30 minutes past the hour. So we have another 20 minutes before Eva joins us. Let's see if we can get Josie on. All right, guys. Eric, are you there? Or did I lose you too? Okay.
Hey, how's it going? I'm just going to pop on here for you.
Awesome, man. Thank you for saving me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to call Josie directly and see if we can get her. Okay, maybe not. Do you want to just come on and while we have her, while we wait for her?
Well, actually, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. I have you okay.
Wonderful. No, I just wanted to talk to you actually a little bit about what you did in DC. You said you had met with Representative Castro, and so we had shown the footage from Dilley Detention Center. Talk to me about the conversation that you had with Representative Castro. Why was he there in the first place?
There we go. We don't have to vamp. We'll come back to it. Here she is.
Wonderful. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to sign in and was having trouble.
Don't worry about it, Josie. You're here. We're here. Yay. I did this with somebody the other day, and so this is now me. It happening back here.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Good. Look, this is like it's not cable television or like the nightly news or like you have to get on at 6:01:30.
Right.
No, it's just
still
time to talk to you. That's all.
Well, I'm sure because our kids are around the same age and in the same system. All of our kids are home this week. So yours are at camp. Yeah. See, if I had been thinking, mine would be at camp. I wasn't thinking. And mine are very much here and have set my whole planning day. I planned to be on 10 minutes ago and I failed.
Of Rachel, who's a planner and like figures out camp, right? And
you're
probably juggling, and she is too, but you're probably juggling a million and one things.
Honestly, I'm also not the person who figures out camp. That would be my husband. So, I can't even pretend like I would have been on it. But I thought he would have been on it.
Well, I'm definitely not on it. I'm like, we just entered like this new agreement where I'm like going to cook dinner once a week because I, in rigorous honesty, have like gotten into the habit where like, because she cooks, I like stop cooking. And so
I have to say, I do not blame you. I haven't cooked dinner in a very long time. Okay.
We're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep watching those personality hires. Every marriage has a personality hire and someone who knows how insurance works. And I cannot explain to you enough how much that resonates with me.
He's just the person that looks at the instructions in our marriage,
I'm
like, let me just try this out and I'll do it.
Exactly. Right? Well, as you know, I went to high school with Rachel and I remember her being very responsible. So you picked great,
she puts on a good show too. I will say this, if we're being rigorously honest, okay? Like she married me for a reason, right? Did marry somebody so buttoned up and proper. Okay?
Right, exactly. That's exactly.
Hey, let's talk about you, Josie. It's super exciting that you're here because
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my God, you are like this person that is able to sort of do it all. It's like
I love to hear that from you because I feel the same way about you. So that's nice to hear.
It's hard to juggle, and like I'm sure there are things that like you fall short on. I fall short on, but your Harvard speech, which I want to play eventually in our interview, it was such a great and honest discussion speech where you like really told the truth about like I tell my kids good people can do bad things, bad people can be heroes, and that was, without giving too much away, was sort of some of what you said, right? And so I want to start with hearing about where your philosophy.
Oh, that's so nice. I mean, well, first of all, they don't let or at least they stopped for like 10 years letting students make graduation speeches after I spoke. I think it was because I quoted young Jeezy, which was not, didn't get the number of laughs I thought it was going to get. I realized I was not in the company I thought I was going to be in. But yeah, I think look, I was just talking to a friend about this morning. I feel just this constant sense of luck that has nothing to do with what I've done or am capable of doing. Just like, and you just were in Minnesota, you've seen enough, more than enough to know just how it's a dice roll between the life I live and someone who doesn't have opportunity and doesn't get to go to Harvard Law School. And I had this, going to HLS was a really formative experience for me because it also reminded me how so many people don't know anything. They're very smart, but they have no real way to apply that intelligence. And some of them aren't even that smart, if we're being totally honest. I tell this story all the time, but
maybe not like an understanding of social cues or
or they work really hard, but they're like, they've done something, but they're not necessarily the 500 smartest lawyers in the their age in the room or even close. And my first year we were talking about mortgages, and there was a girl who said I would never get a mortgage. That's how the mortgage crisis happened, because people got mortgages. And I was like, oh, you're going to leave here and you're going to go clerk for a judge, and then you'll go to a firm, and then maybe you'll be a judge. And you think that just having mortgages was the problem. Like, you just think that like not being able to pay for your house right out is the problem with like the financial system. And, you know, I am reminded of that every day now. I mean, these are the people making policy, right? These are the people making decisions about what happened to, but not only just what happens to us, what happens to our kids and our kids' kids. And they are not imparted with some sort of special ability to determine what's good for us. They're imparted with access and often arrogance, and I think often just not the gift of not being preoccupied with how your actions affect others, which, you know, as we see every day, especially in this administration, allows you to kind of get, you know, to amass a lot of power. If you're okay harming people and you're ambitious, you can be, you know, you can be in the cabinet tomorrow.
I'm so excited that you are talking about this, because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. I feel like this is what I think, you know, and a lot of the conversations that Rach has probably heard me have before. You're so spot on that I want to play your speech from Harvard. I'm so like flustered right now because you've said something, and I'm trying to get
thank you.
Let's play the clip from Harvard. It's like a minute long, and then I'll get my EP on and we'll start.
The law is noble, but it is not perfect. It is good, but it is not always just. Our laws are made by people just like you and I, not by gods. And so my hope for us as lawyers is that we do listen to the law, of course, but that we also listen to our brain and our gut. I hope we acknowledge when something makes us uneasy, that we speak up when something feels wrong. In law school, they teach you to think like a lawyer, but I hope in the process we don't forget to also think like human beings. I hope that we allow ourselves to hold fast in what we believe in, but that we have the dignity and the humility to change our minds. That we remember that often experience is more valuable than eloquence. That we do not always equate logic with strength, that we do not always equate emotion with weakness.
I don't think I've heard that speech since I gave it, so that was an interesting experience. Oh, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Oh, there you are. Yeah, now I can hear. Nope, muted again. You're muted again. There you go. Right. Yes. Okay. Great.
That was 12 years ago that you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that's so crazy to me. Okay, so I see this. You have clearly reached the upper echelons of society, right? You're at Harvard. You're standing in front of hundreds of people. I feel like I've been in these rooms where like my parents wanted me to, intended me to be in these rooms when I grew up. Probably the same. Your dad, South Central, South Africa, right? What I've seen in these rooms, and I'd love for you to react to this, is just a pipeline of prestigious people who are siloed off. And I felt always, no matter what I accomplished, how smart I was, how talented, I never felt comfortable there because I wasn't from this, you know, cut from the same cloth of this prestigious background. And so how did you navigate that? And like, we hear about imposter syndrome, but like, I don't even want to, it's something so much more different because that ignores the kind of people that are like built into succeeding in that system and thriving already.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd say is like, I'm not a practicing lawyer now. Right. And I never really practiced. And I felt very, disappointed with the law by the time I graduated from law school and with the legal system. And law school itself had really turned me off from the idea of practicing. I don't think that's actually a very good thing. Like, it's important to have lawyers. And many of my friends from law school are lawyers doing incredible work. They're doing immigration law. They're representing death penalty clients. They're public defenders.
Some would say lawyers run the world.
Some might say that, right. But, you know, I think I did have a lot of imposter syndrome. And I did have this constant feeling of not wanting to say the wrong thing because I was often the only, especially my first year, often the only Black girl in the room, or I felt an a responsibility that I was representing something so much bigger than I think lots of other kids felt they could go and do their thing. But I also felt like, you know, I don't want to say that like the path that lots of my classmates took was bad, because I don't necessarily think that. Like there's something amazing about being like an associate that changes, that goes with a class and has, as a freelance journalist, I'm like, I definitely get the appeal of that life. But it's also, there's a lot of potential for innovation and creativity and improving the law that doesn't get utilized, because the law is because people go into these jobs that don't ask for that, right? And so, I mean, but the other thing I'll just say, and then I'll shut up, is that I was in law school before Trump. Like, it was I'm fascinated by what it must be like to study the law now, because there was all of this stuff we've seen, and not just in term 2, but in term 1. Like, if you had said to my professors, could this happen? They would have said, no, that could never happen. The court will step in. Congress would never let that happen. There was this real faith in institutions and in the law to protect us. It wasn't even, for most of my professors, it wasn't even a thought that it could be upended, or that like public trust could be lost in it. So I wonder what it's like now. I mean, every time I meet a law student, I'm like, what do they teach you now? Because they taught us this was impenetrable. And like 3 years later, we were like, oh, it's actually not at all.
I think about
in
that.
fact, all these institutions will lay down and let this happen.
It's applicable to journalism as well. It's like, we
totally
thought it would be one way, and it's not. And to your profession in law, I have a friend who is one of the top 50 attorneys in America. I love saying that. He's awesome. He's super smart.
Right.
And he says to me, what I've realized is that there's only one branch of government that truly has the power, and that's the executive, because they control the military. Because I can't help you, right? And God bless the U.S. District Court judges that are basically the Avengers right now, that are smacking things down, and Trump is losing. President Trump is losing left and right in different cities across the country that we don't really hear about, because, again, to circle back around, if there's this conglomerization of media, we only get sort of one side.
You only get and especially with social media too, not just traditional, but Twitter is not a reflection of real life, but I don't know what is, because now everything has been kind of worked.
This right now, I just was at the Knight Foundation in Miami, and they were talking about the dead internet theory that I'd never heard of.
What is it called?
The dead internet theory. And it's a theory that most of the internet, or a lot of the internet, is just bots, and that we're going to get to a point where a lot of what we see is AI or it's bot. And the true currency, like in journalism, the true currency is credibility. But the currency for this avenue of new media that we're going to explore is actually physically getting people shoulder to shoulder together, because we will crave human interaction so much more, as the internet, which was meant for us, is taken over by non-humans.
Right. Totally. And I think to that same point, like, when there are less people reporting on what's happening in your neighborhood, when you have kind of less media infrastructure overall, like, you have to know your neighbors. You have to be able to communication with people. That's the only way you know what's going on. I found that amazing about Minnesota, just like watching your streams, that's where so much that's where I was learning almost everything, was from you, a couple other people like you who are on the ground, and then also TikTok and people, just regular people filming themselves. And that is only possible if you're in community, because otherwise you just don't know what's happening,
God, community and fellowship. I think about what Trevor Noah says. Eric just reminded me here. And he's like, I heard this analogy. He's from South Africa, and he talks about the village and how capitalism is really trying to just recreate the village. The more we get towards capitalism, the more it's this really weird paradox, right? Where we're like trying to recreate the village, but we get further away. Like the village, someone next door takes care of your child when they're sick, or you have to do an interview, and because you've just shared a meal with them, that they love your child.
Right.
And now,
and their children, and their,
you're paying someone $25. I'm going on a date tonight with my wife, and I know that we're going to pay, what is it, $100, $120 to go out. And that's drink, so that's no Uber. You know, that's
right, right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
everything, right? Exactly.
And
Honestly, it's so true. And it's really a big thing in criminal justice too. We talk, Miriam Kaba and other people who are much smarter than me have talked a lot about this kind of idea of the neighbor, like what Jelani Cobb calls the civic unit of a democracy. Like, we rely on all of these systems to regulate behavior, in part because we don't really have community regulation, right? We don't know people around us. There isn't really a sense of like, when your neighbor's like house party's too loud, you call the police. We're not always good at being like, hey, can you turn it down? Like it's just like capitalism point is a really good one. And I think it relates to me so much about like institution building and watching them crumble, which they haven't totally crumbled yet, but I don't like the path we're headed.
It's not going to be like Fight Club where we see them all collapse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Washington Post, CNN, they've all suffered huge, massive layoffs, but they're not going to go away. They're just,
right.
I'm now important, right? Like I get
right.
to like you,
right. Right. Right.
We get to share this, and this is real,
right? It is.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but I think people also don't realize how much work this is. Like, how much work it is to do this independently, especially what you're doing. It's like the enormous risks and costs that you take on. Everything from like, if you work at the Washington Post and someone sues you for libel or whatever, like, you have an institution behind you that can defend you. You have insurance. You have lawyers. You have like independent journalism is in some ways so amazing. And in other ways, I'm like, look at what we're asking from you. We're asking you to be an entire news outlet, and I'm grateful you're doing it. We might both be idiots for the path of work that we've chosen, but it really takes bravery, and it takes an incredible amount of dedication, and it takes time away from your family and everything. But it's also asking you to take on what we used to have outlets to be able to take on, and people to be able to defend you. And it's a lot to ask,
I try to start with gratitude, and this is not being full of shit, but I think like,
no,
well, we ask our teachers so much.
Yeah,
we ask
totally.
our women in our society. We ask Black women in our society. You all have nursed this country for 400 years, and they don't realize what the backbone of the Democratic Party. It's like everybody's got to sacrifice shit.
It is.
My fingers are just now growing back. The human body is amazing because I got frostbite from holding my
in Minnesota.
Because that's an element that we didn't even talk about, Josie. Everybody's looking at chaos, and remembering the names. Think about all of that, and now remember that it was -14 or -12 or a guy as hot as -6.
Right.
And we're still out there standing on business. It's like
right.
For me, what I realize also is I feel really empowered right now because I have had this eye-opening experience where I feel like I understand that this new media platform, it's never been about me. It was always about my community. But in that same sense, because my community is being persecuted, I get to introduce my audience now, which I've built in this new media space. I get to introduce my audience to my network. They get to meet me. And as this evolves, I want to do more meetups. We are very popular in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta. I want to start getting people together and doing this together because everybody feels like we're just talking about lack of community. It is the exact remedy to what we're seeing right now here that they're put in our communities. Because
I think that's right.
Walked away with from Minnesota, besides new fingers, was the feeling of community because it was those people in Minnesota that were lifting me up from my armpits and wiping the gas out of my eyes.
Well, you guys gave that to the whole country. I mean, that kind of stasis, I don't know if stasis is the right word, but I have felt like this sense of paralysis over the past year. Definitely way more than I felt Trump year one. Like, where do you go? What do you do? And I'm supposed to know. I'm supposed to know something. And I still sort of was like, and I feel like everybody felt like that. Minnesota, I think, really has galvanized a different level of hope in people because of exactly what you're saying, that it showed community, it showed people fighting for their neighbor, and not just this neighbor, but neighbor a couple blocks away and, down the street. And it showed this kind of fundamental bravery of people, this American thing that, like Boston Tea Party and, all of the, like, from the beginning, this thing that we're, that's supposed to be part of the special story of America. I mean, it's not just American, but it is amazing. It was amazing to see.
It's the
because you guys won. I mean, you won. Like, we haven't won it all, obviously, but like they're retreating, and it would have been amazing if they weren't retreating. But we can like maintain our freedoms and our rights and our liberties if we have our neighbors next to us. Hopefully,
my beautiful cynic producer, executive producer, is in my ear saying,
I know. I just was thinking, I hope my husband doesn't hear me say this, because he's going to be like, absolutely not.
Look, totally I'm with you, because we need hope. I know if we're Taoist, hope, the only thing, hope is empty, and it's like, it forces
what
us
else do you have?
Right? Like where we're not enjoying what's going on around us. But I think, to your point, if we're looking at the facts is yes, the community stood together. The facts are, yes, Tom Homan announced an end of the operation, even if they're not all leaving. And people are now, I think, the wine moms in Morningside are now paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there is that community all across America, right? The wine moms in Brentwood, or, Echo Park, or wherever you want to say, in LA.
Yep.
Like, people are looking now. And I think that has made a difference.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please. Oh my God.
I just want to ask you about like when you were in Minnesota, like, did you get a sense that some of these ICE officers, that it wasn't worth it to them? And by that, I mean, you didn't see that.
I'll tell you what I did see. And if we're talking about then, like, any morality coming out, or
just like, who wants to be like, I mean, people don't like you here. Like, even just the self-interested part of like, doing this job, like, I don't want everybody to hate me. Did you see any of that?
What's crazy is that because I've spent a lot of time on the border, and that's where you usually see the Border Patrol. They have a 50-mile radius from the border,
right,
all over. A lot of them, especially in the Rio Grande Valley, more than 50% of Border Patrol agents are Latino. The most hardcore Republicans I have ever met are in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, right next to the border, which is one of the most active sectors. I don't want to give too much details away, but I have a family member who is a Border Patrol agent who we don't talk. I'm not going to say anymore, Mama. Okay, please, if you're watching this on replay. The people who shot and killed Alex Pretty were veteran Border Patrol and CBP agents who were Latino. Who wants to be an agent? People who actually believe that they are doing something in good faith, and they are lying to themselves that they're doing this in the name of law and order. Because if it was really about law and order, it wouldn't be so easy to work here illegally, and we'd actually do something to the companies. We would go after the private prison owners, which is why we got you here to talk about. We on philosophy. I mean, like, we have another guest coming up here, Eva Roytburg, who is amazing in her own right. But before we let you go, I want to hear, you obviously see an intersection between what you've studied and like the expansion of prisons. Speak on it, like, educate us, put us on game.
I mean, the immigration thing especially, I think, is really important, because even under Biden and even under the last few presidents, there's been this talk of like, we're getting rid of private prisons. Well, that depends on how you define prison, right? Because a detention center is a prison. And we use this term detention center like, I don't know, it's like a euphemism. It's a prison, and we are putting, and they are all privately built on the federal level. They're all federal because it's a federal system. And, what we are seeing is rapid expansion. So I was just talking to a friend a couple of days ago who said he works, I won't be too specific for similar reasons, but, he works in construction, and he said he had, his firm had put a bid in for building these new facilities because they're getting built everywhere, and he's been pushing back, et cetera. But they're being built everywhere. It's an enormous opportunity. It's an enormous economic, and investment is the wrong word because that sounds like you're getting a return on it. But sinkhole, right, of our money that is going into building these facilities and fund. And people think that private prisons mean we don't pay anything for them. That's not true. We are paying these companies a fee, money to house people while they profit off of it. And I really think, like, look, sometimes on the criminal side, the way we talk about private prisons is incredibly limiting sometimes, because we imagine that all prisons are private, et cetera. On the criminal law side, most institutions are public and they are just as bad. So that's not to justify private prisons, but just to say on the criminal side, it's a little bit more complicated. On the immigration side, the money that is being made hand over foot by private prison companies, the way their stocks are shooting up, that the things they're saying to shareholders, the things that they're saying, like this ICE, these ICE rates are good for us. We need more. I was just reading that recently on one call. I think it was Geo Group, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But they were saying on a shareholder call, like the problem is we need more. What we actually need is more arrests, more people in. When you give people a economic benefit to tearing children away from their parents on the street, like what do we think will come of that? When have we ever proven ourselves to be above that as a corporatized society, a corporatized America? I mean, we're above it, but not the people who run these companies. And so I just think about incentives. I think about incentives for the ICE officers. I think about incentives for the people running these private prison companies. I think about incentives for the administration. Cruelty is a real incentive. It makes people money. And right now, immigration enforcement in particular, immigration terror in particular, is making these private prison owners a lot of money.
Cruelty is the point, and you're absolutely right. And we want you back. I mean,
I would love to come back. Let's go to dinner. Let's hang out.
Yes. We didn't even one of my favorite things that you said in your Harvard commencement speech to the Harvard School of Law was that the grace is in the gray area, and that's what I feel like right now is that these may be laws, but legality doesn't equal morality. And what you're just speaking on right now is what I think journalism is at its core, is a beacon of moral clarity. It is just we can't just be neutral. We got to be true.
Right. I agree.
And so thank you, Josie Duffy.
Thank you so much, Nick. I would be happy to join any other time. It's so great to see you, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, guys.
Meet you.
I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, hey, I forgot about that already. Sorry for squeezing into Eva's time.
Sorry, Eva. Bye.
We'll talk to you soon. That was Josie Duffy Rice. And we got a lot more in the show here ahead. Some technical problems that we worked through. I think Eric is still with me. The next clip, it'll give me some time to reset. But we want to introduce you to somebody who I just think is a visionary. And I texted her as much. She is somebody who has taken her platform and evolved in kind of around the same time we launched our platform, but she's doing it still at a big company. She's doing it at Fortune magazine. She's a reporter there. And in full disclosure, she's a former CNN intern, somebody who I worked with. I want to show you a clip of what she's doing. One of her viral clips. I think this one got like 2 million views or something. Let's show a clip of Eva, and then we'll talk on the other side of it.
Fighting today, and by girls, I mean the two AI giants that are propping up trillions of dollars in our economy. It started this weekend with Nvidia quietly walking back what investors thought was going to be a $100 billion investment into OpenAI. Jensen Huang pretty grumpily told reporters that the deal was never actually a commitment.
There was never a commitment. They invited us to invest up to $100 billion.
After that, Nvidia stock fell, wiping off $130 billion off their market capital. So then, OpenAI clapped back with this Reuters story quoting anonymous sources saying that they've been unsatisfied with Nvidia's chips and have secretly been shopping around to find new ones. Then Sam Altman went on X to backtrack, saying he doesn't know where any of this insanity is coming from. But he knows. Investors aren't buying the OpenAI hype anymore. The company has $1 trillion in commitments, but only $20 billion in revenue. Investors are so freaked out by it that when Oracle went on X today to say that none of this drama had anything to do with them, the stock reversed 3%. Just the mention of OpenAI was enough.
And she joins us now live on Nick Valencia Live. Thanks so much for being on the show. I love what you're doing. How are you?
Thank you so much, Nick. Doing great, doing great. Long time no see. And I definitely felt like, I would definitely say you mentioned like the kind of corresponding timelines of when I started making videos, but I definitely was inspired by your own pivot and thought it was super impressive. So yeah, thanks for kind of that guidance and mentorship even from afar.
Oh my God. Like you don't have to say nice things even though you're on my show, you know?
You said it's fine. You said enough about me. So
I saw you watching that, and like it's like how everybody is when they're on air. You're like, like when you watch that, even though so many people loved it, it went viral and like you're doing great. but like, what's it like having that feeling of watching yourself back?
I
Like,
mean,
you know?
I hate, I mean, everybody hates listening to their voice, but I hate listening to my voice. And also, like, I'm a writer by trade. I've been writing since I was little. Like, I would consider myself a writer first and foremost. And these videos are still super new for me. And so I'm like just not used to the way you're supposed to deliver it. And like, I can hear myself doing the like TikTok voice. And the TikTok voice is just hilarious to me. My friends also make fun of me. Like whenever I like pick up a phone call from them, they'll be like, Jerome Powell says, like screaming into the phone, because that's exactly how you have to talk in the videos. And I personally dislike it, but you do what you got to do to get the information to the people.
I think you meet the people where they are, right? You can't like
Exactly.
look down on your nose. At least I'll speak for myself. When I entered this new space and made the pivot, it was like, okay, I can't be like, oh, well, these people are just regurgitating the news and that's not real journalism. Like, I'm sure people and old curmudgeons and hoity-toity people think that what I'm doing isn't real journalism, but I think it's the best stuff that I've ever done in my 20-year career, honestly. And like, I know it is, because no bullshit, you're telling me if I'm inspiring you, and I'm like, dude, she's crushing it. This is exactly how people need to get the information. I don't think I ever got over that feeling either, just to land on this, of like watching myself. But it's like you play sports, it's like an athlete watching tape back, kind of like you're watching yourself perform, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and we can't, like, all smart and, independent journalists can't kind of cede the space online to just like influencers with ring lights, right? Like, we have to sort of, like, if we want to compete, we have to compete in every arena. And so, yeah, I definitely agree.
Do your peers understand the importance of that? Because you, I think, are leading the way among your peer group.
I think so. I think that every news organization is sort of scrambling to try to figure out how to have a social presence, and some are doing much better than others. I do think that like kind of the whole point of social media is that there's supposed to be an authentic kind of individuality there. I think that's the problem with like news organizations, is that like, how do you kind of personify a news organization? Like, we can remember kind of the really excellent Washington Post TikTok account from COVID with that guy. I forget his name, but
I think you're talking about too. Yeah.
And he was like great because he was just kind of had this like humorous and sort of light, which personification of what I felt like was Washington Post's tone. But then ultimately, like, he got too big and then left. And so I think that news organizations are sort of struggling with that. And I have enjoyed kind of helping Fortune along and kind of discovering some lessons for myself and for them too.
They are lessons that I discover every single day, because I've realized that you could talk about it, I can talk about it, but I have to be about it in this space in order to realize what works, what doesn't work,
Yeah.
And I've gotten to this point, and I think you honestly have too, Eva, where like, I feel like I could charge a consultant fee about what some of this stuff that I've like figured out is the secret sauce, I want you to just speak generally in broad strokes without giving away the secret sauce, because we should be charging for that, to be honest. What is it like? Why do you think it is working for you?
No, I'm down to give the secret sauce. I mean, as journalists, like, we are very focused primarily not just on sort of synthesizing or breaking news, but making news interesting. And my field is financial and business news, which can often be very sort of tedious and boring. And so in my job every day, like, I write 700, 800 word articles, but I spend most of the time sort of mulling over my headline, right? Like, how are you gonna grab somebody? How are you gonna make somebody care? And I think everybody really, really, really cares a lot about the economy, but they just don't know it. Like, they would just describe what they're talking about in different words other than like financial or business or economy. And so I think like the hook, for example, for a video is like, that's by far like the most amount of time I'll spend on it. Like, I was kind of thinking, what is the first thing I'm going to say to make somebody just instantly care and not think that this is super boring. And that, I think, is a advantage I have from, journalism, and like constantly already in my day job thinking about how to make this stuff exciting. And yeah, so I think that's, I think like spending at least an hour thinking about a hook sometimes is probably the biggest benefit, as well as the jump cuts, whatever. It helps to be Gen Z, us digital natives who kind of know how to intuitively like what a good video looks like. So
that's really no different from creating a lead though in a newsroom, right? Finding
No.
like how to grab the audience. And then in terms of like the cut, it's like the language that you're using in an article, right? The words, the adjectives that you would use. Every newsroom, I don't believe in objectivity. I think that's part of why I'm having success, is that I'm not part of this great big myth anymore that things are objective. And I think people can be fair. And I think that's my metric. But I think honestly, I don't know, being able to just be sort of real about what you're presenting and like present it in a way where it is chopped up, and those editorial margins, they might be the word selection for the newsroom, but in this new media space, it's literally how you edit something so somebody digests it,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I definitely disagree with, I think, your opinion about objectivity, just because
okay.
I think
I'll die on this hill. Okay.
just because, which I definitely understand why. I understand why you have the opinion, and I think that it's a valid one. But I actually think that my videos have done relatively well because I don't appear to have a partisan bias, like or like not even like in terms of right or left. But if you watch my videos, you don't necessarily get the impression that I'm like anti-business, or that I'm like super pro business, or that I'm like funded or bought by anybody, or have anybody else's interests other than kind of just stating the facts. And so I think it's still like, I think in a world in which it's very difficult to distinguish between sort of a person who's paid to just tell the news in an interesting way versus a person who's paid to tell the news with a slant, I think it's still a noble goal to try to present news objectively. But I do think that there is a craving, like Gen Z particularly, I think has this craving for sort of just straight on news and wants to have their own opinions, even though that's kind of contrary to popular belief. But I do think that is something that's more desired. I think that's part of authenticity too. We might think that authenticity is kind of about bearing your biases, but I also think that I don't know. It's about kind of demonstrating enough trust and sort of respect for your viewer that you will just give them the news without telling them how to think about it.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. I just don't think the word applies to journalism, because I don't think, even if you are being objective and just the facts, you're still choosing which clip from which person that you're interviewing. You're still choosing the person that you interview. You're choosing how to present them. All of that stuff. And like, this is why I will die on this hill. All of that stuff, I would argue, is authentic, but it's subjective. It's your take on it, which is why I think you're distinguishing yourself and why you're Eva Roytburg and you're here, right? And like, what I'm talking about is this idea, I think, that professors give towards journalism school students right now, or newsrooms even, when the bosses themselves are not objective, or when our mission as journalists is to hold the powerful accountable until the powerful are our media company owning bosses, where they don't want to hear what we have to say about them. And so that's what I think we're saying the same thing, Eva. It's all about authentic, like, that's why you're winning right now, I think, not to fucking throw so many flowers on you, but like you're being yourself, like you're being, have you tried to like do something? I know you did a clip where like you pretended to be like act out a skit, like I haven't seen you recreate that. Is that some of the things that you've tried and didn't work, or like how have you evolved even more since the beginning?
Yeah, I love that, making that video. Yeah, that video did not do well. I thought that was gonna like be a banger, and when I was like at work, I just like spent the whole day like fantasizing about it. And then I was like, oh well, whatever. I'll just go back to what works. But yeah, I've definitely experimented a few times with it. I mean, like at first, I was just doing it sort of like as just a raw experiment, and then I realized like how embarrassing, because I just sort of like made a video because I had a friend who was making videos. And he was like, you should try it. So I did it and just posted it. And then I realized like how embarrassing it was to just like sort of like just toss it out there. So I was like, all right, time to commit to the bit. And like deleted all my posts, like all posts and whatever, just committed. But yeah, I experimented with like a few different formats, and I think that there's definitely like if I tried to do more variations, I could probably find like a more consistent pattern of success. But honestly, just the straight camera talking is easiest and has worked so far. So
if you can give somebody who's like getting into this advice, I get a question like this all the time about like, what do you tell kids that want to go into journalism school? What do you tell this journalism student? Like, should they still be trying to get jobs at the mainstream? You've worked and are still working at a big place, but are also having this, success in the new media. Like, put us up, like I said in my last guest, put us on game, tell us what's up.
Sorry, you mean advice for somebody who wants to get into like this particularly, or just journalism, or
just journalism? Like you are in this path in this new media era where like this is a viable runway. There is money to be made here. It's also viable to build an audience. Social engagement, I think, is really the battle right now. Public engagement. So like, what do you tell the new media journalist that's entering this space?
I would say my first piece of advice would be to make sure that you have something to say before you like try to say something. Meaning like you shouldn't fake. It's very easy right now to like go on like ChatGPT or Gemini and ask for a script to be written about AI. But rather than doing that, like go the old school method and like spend a bunch of hours researching, read analyst notes, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, read every single publication, Bloomberg, Financial Times, Forbes, Business Insider, like just like be obsessed with your topic, like have a genuine interest in it, and then kind of start creating videos from there. And I think that helps both with like if you're trying to do sort of like journalism presenting facts. I know we disagree, but like it helps kind of it helps eradicate some of the more malign biases, shall we say, like the biases that kind of make you say things that are inaccurate more often than are accurate. That helps get rid of that because you're taking in a variety of viewpoints, but then also like you just feel more confident. Like this, I've posted videos where like I've had a bunch of people, mostly men. My audience is 96% men on every single video, and older, like much older than me. Average age is 35 to 45. That's
in old, the 42.
Yeah, older than me. Because yeah, like twice my age, who will like in the hundreds of thousands be commenting like hate and vitriol and on all kinds of stuff, and will be, but like I know that if they try to sort of dispute the substance of what I'm actually saying, that they couldn't, because this is like my job. I do it for a living, and I've like read constantly and I'm obsessed with it. And so if anybody would want to go toe to toe with me about the information, I would have it down. And I think that that's a kind of confidence that lets you keep posting, even like if a video flops or even if people are like super mad at it.
I love it. Tell us how we can watch you, and for those who do want to go toe to toe with you potentially, where can we see your stuff?
You can find me on Eva Royt on Instagram, or the same handle on TikTok, EvaRoyt.
I think you're doing great. And also, part of what has made you, really shine and still continue to go up is the work that you put in. Eva, when she was an intern with us, she would come in with story ideas and pitches. She also had this, like, what I call faith of a child excitement about journalism. And like, I don't remember what it was, but I just remember you were like, yes, you're like, I was like, fuck yeah, man, that's how I feel. And like, I just want to, as the old man in the room here,
not old.
Well, I got the trauma streak going on. I never lose that, Eva. Don't if you're ever in that Excella expressway where you're going back and forth between New York and DC, and like if you're only going to continue to go up, right? You're only going to keep blowing up even more. The audience will meet you now. They'll see you in, really bigger capacity, I'm sure, in the months to come. But like, just don't ever lose that. I'm not saying that you will, but like, I am so grateful that I still have that faith of a child, and I still geek out from one geek to the other. Continue to geek out on this stuff. It's super cool.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think that we have like the best job ever, and so I think that we need to do a good job stewarding it. And I think you're doing an excellent job and showing, giving our colleagues and peers a great example of it. So thank you.
Thanks for putting me on game. I love that. Eva Roytburg. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us live. Bye. That was awesome. Eric, do you want to do this 16-minute interview, or do you want to save it for Thursday? What do you want to do? I feel like we save it for Thursday. I feel like we had some technical glitches here today. We worked through it. Are you still with me? You're still with me, right? You still have me? Do you want to join the last couple of minutes of the show and just talk? Okay, Derek doesn't want to come on. Okay, so that's probably a good sign to wrap it up then. Look, what a show, thanks for sticking around and working through the technical problems with us. It wasn't even that bad. Josie Duffy Rice, she was an exceptional guest. We just had to wait for a little longer. Everything that's good is worth waiting for. And then Eva Roytburg, conversation went longer than we thought because, it's just so fun to see an old face, an old colleague. It's fun to be called old myself, I guess. But yeah, we are... Dang it. This is that time of day where I just get blown up. My phone gets blown up. We are so grateful to have you guys here and join us for this latest edition of Nick Valencia Live. And before we go, I think I would be remiss not to mention the passing of Reverend Josie Jackson. Being a correspondent here in the South, being based here as a journalist in the South has given me a lot of access to historical figures in the civil rights era. I've broken bread with Andy Young. One of my first interviews, in fact, my first live interview on CNN was with Representative John Lewis. And I also got to spend a lot of time over the years with this man here, Reverend Josie Jackson. And this picture that you're looking at here was taken on July 6th, 2015, outside of the state capitol of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina, where at the time, it was in the weeks after the killing spree of Dylan Roof, the white supremacist who opened fire on Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, just a few hours away from Columbia, with the intention of trying to start a race war. And he murdered 9 Black parishioners. And, that was a story that I covered. I was a first CNN correspondent there on the ground, and I went back recently. And I spent a lot of time in South Carolina in that time. And because of that, because of the social impact and the civil rights ramifications of what it meant to wave the Confederate flag, South Carolina got focused on. And Governor Nikki Haley was kind of shunned in some parts of her party for coming out in support of taking the flag down. The state legislature held a special session. They talked about it. Eventually, they voted to bring the Confederate flag down. And it was during the lead up to that vote and the time around that the Reverend Jackson came and he showed up to our live shot location. And, it was just sort of cool. I mean, not sort of cool. It was amazing to know, hey, look, this is a guy that ran for president. This is a guy, whether or not you like him or think he's obnoxious. Oh, here, whether there's a camera, there's Josie Jackson. I hear it all. And probably I've sometimes thought that about him myself, but you can't deny his significance and importance in the historical context of this country, and being somebody who is a Black man in this country and making it to, like talking about this conversation earlier, making it to the upper echelons of our society, running for president of the United States back in the 80s, the Rainbow Coalition. And he's done a lot of work for the advancement of people in his community. Nobody is perfect. Whether this applies to Josie Jackson, myself, Eric, the guests on this show, you could probably take a segment somewhere of all the nuggets of gold that have been in the show. You could probably take something and make your point about how terrible I am, or make your point about how much you don't like me, and use my own words to do it. Nobody in this world is perfect, but God. I believe that last part. Nobody is perfect but God. And so anyone is subject to criticism or critique. You could take a selective truth from anybody and make them look bad. Trust me, I'm a journalist. I know a lot of people in my industry, they fucking love that shit. Everyone, though, is also capable of great things. And we have seen that as an example here today with our two guests. People who have come from backgrounds where they fought to get to where they're at. Josie Duffy Rice, giving a commencement speech at the Harvard School of Law. Damn. I mean, I barely know her. I met her right now on the show, but I bet her parents are so proud, man. Eva Roytburg, seeing this new media journalist thrive in this space, you know, and sticking to the old principles of traditional media, something that I think I do, even though we've disagreed on objectivity. I still think I apply these journalism ethics. I leave the maligned biases at the door. I like that. I'm going to take that from her. Thank you guys for sticking around and for joining. And thank you for everybody who's watching this on a replay. This is really cool. Eric has got the idea of just replaying our show for our West Coast viewers. We have a big audience in Los Angeles and on the West Coast. So thank you everyone who tuned in live. And also if you're watching on the replay, and to you guys on Facebook for joining us here live for the first time. We figured it out. We are now streaming not just on Substack, not just on Instagram and YouTube, but now as well on Facebook. I hope you guys have a great rest of the Tuesday. As always, thank you for helping us make truth go viral. And have a great day on purpose. Yeah, buddy.
Okay. Here we go. I am somebody. I am somebody. I may be poor. But I am somebody. I may be young. But I am somebody. I may be on welfare. But I am somebody. I may be small. But I am somebody. I may make a mistake. But I am somebody. My clothes are different. My face is different. My hair is different. But I am somebody. I am black, brown, white. I speak a different language. But I must be respected, protected, never rejected. I am God's child. I am somebody. Give yourself a big hand.